Good evening, listeners. This is Conversation Oasis coming to you from ravintola Kasviskeidas from Uudenmaan Katu, and it's the weekly conversational program, and we are going into different topics here. Tonight we are talking about November, and then we are talking about the presidential elections. And with me today I have Jalal, owner of the place, Anton, Sanamari, representative of the Animal Rights Party, and also our sound engineer David Mawby, and fiilistelijä Sakke, Nana Blomqvist, our regular member, host, and also Branko, one of our regulars, and I am Ville. And let's start with November, the darkness all around us, the Iljanne and black ice, those frozen forms that we all walk upon and try to remember summer. How do you feel about November? Jalal.
It was so poetic, I don't know how to respond to that question.
Good time for poets also.
Well, I think I'm so busy I don't even notice that it's dark. Whole day inside in the restaurant, I don't see the daylight or the darkness, even darkness.
So you see only the warmth and light of Kasviskeidas?
Just Kasviskeidas.
All right. What about Anton?
This might be a surprise, but I don't like. It doesn't matter how dark or light it is to me. So yeah, it doesn't really matter. I like it this way, and I like it in the summer. So yeah, it doesn't vary.
You're a survivalist.
Yeah, pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't really feel good about it, and it's feeling like the day doesn't even begin. It's like one long night for me.
But is it a good thing or a bad thing? Or
I think it's bad.
All right.
Up in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about David? I think you had some stories about how it should be banned by law.
I think for anyone who's been born below latitude 55 degrees has problems to come to terms with the darkness of the Nordic winter. And indeed, when I speak to people further south in southern Europe, they just cannot comprehend that, for instance, in the middle of the day, cloud cover may make the day so dull that there is no sunshine at all. This definitely has an effect on a person's psyche if you were not born in this particular part of the world. And I have to say that to listen to people always moaning about November has an effect as well, because it also affects people who were born north of the 55th parallel as well, because you know that in November it's going to get darker and darker and darker until you get to Christmas and December, and then then everyone says, summer is on the way, but you dare not say anything about summer in November.
This is nature, and we cannot change it, and it's very natural. But my country politically is dark, and that we can change it. We cannot.
You so want to get into this politics again?
No, not politics,
Can we just talk about the weather?
It's just human. It's just human.
Come on, can we just talk about the weather for a short while at least?
Talk about weather. We cannot change it.
It's the stuff. It's the stuff that tabloid headlines are made of. The weather, you say. Yes.
But don't you find it useless to talk about just weather, that we are not experts on weather, and just to say that we like it or we don't like it?
Hey,
well, obviously you have never.
I have to counter argue here.
Yes.
You want to talk about sex all the time. Sex is natural. Sex is natural. Why talk about it? Well, weather is natural. We can talk about it, I think.
As the late George Michael would have added, sex is good when it's one-on-one. Yes, do come on, Ville.
I'm recovering from this sudden confusion, but yeah, I think what was mentioned here is politics and sex and everything, I think November affects all these topics.
Yes,
also.
and I would say to Jalal that perhaps you should visit the UK, because in November the only thing people talk about at bus stops is the weather. Certainly not politics.
And weather is
I'm sorry for Britain, because Britain probably that's why you lost.
I've been sorry for Britain for many years now.
Colonized era in Britain. You talked about weather. But
all right. I think this is getting out of hand. Sake, you have some
techniques for not getting depressed. I don't drink alcohol, and don't laugh, it's true. And then I work out 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah.
And it helps me a lot.
Yeah. I think what Sake said is fine, because the one way I've managed to get over this is, and all the depression that's involved, is that go to the forest, enjoy the nature, and that's do a bit of forest therapy. And I find forest therapy to be a great help, not only in November but in October, December, whenever it's dark, providing it doesn't rain. And you soon get used to a little bit of rain, even if it does happen when you go in the forest. In fact, to be soaked in the forest is quite fun.
Yeah, it's refreshing. How about Sake? What, you had something?
Winter bath.
Winter?
Oh yes.
Winter bath.
Yeah, ice swimming.
Ice swimming.
That is
exactly.
the best thing. That's really the best counter antidepressives you can have during
It's like
winter.
being in love.
Yeah, but
love in November, ice.
Without being crazy, you know.
Do you have something more, Nana, about November?
Than ice swimming.
Yeah, other thoughts or feelings or...
Well, usually I'm more bothered by the cold than the darkness, and I realized that when I was in Japan, and it got dark around 5 in the winter, I think, 5, 6, and but it was still warm after it got dark, and I realized that was something new. That here, always when it's dark, it's also cold. Like, we never have warm and dark at the same time. So sometimes I got this idea in my mind that we associate darkness with not so good, because it's always accompanied by coldness or this wetness and everything.
At least in November, December. Then climatically, at least until recent years, something happens around New Year that you get sunny days, or at least that's where it was 5 or 10 years ago, certainly 25 years ago, and it changes, but it's still, actually, the sun is still low in the sky.
Yeah.
So I think it's the association with autumn climatic conditions and darkness that causes this thing. Oh no, it's here again now, and what we're going to do about it. But I find people in Finland to be and throughout the Nordic area to be exceptionally industrious during the autumn period, and that is a way of getting over it. You know, because if you sit down there and you look at your navel every morning and say, "Oh, this bloody autumn," you know, you get yourself into a downward spiral of depression, which is not good for anything. And of course there are people that do succumb to this, because I think rates of suicide are higher in autumn, and which is a very sad point. So yes, autumn, like any season, has its effect on the human psyche.
Is it really in autumn really the suicides go up? Really?
I think it's also at least also in the spring, I think.
And during Christmas, but
when there isn't a peak.
But where
I think that depends on your.
And also.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, do we?
That depends how you get on with your relatives, I suppose. But,
yeah.
We haven't yet heard anything from Frank, or do you have some thoughts about November?
Well, yes, and just to begin with, I would like to comment that the one thing of all the discussions we have had, the one thing that we get into a shouting match about is the weather.
Yeah, it's a topic that somehow
it raises passions.
Yeah, it raises passions always.
But yeah, the darkness itself doesn't bother me that much. It's more the schedules, particularly when you talk about the university, where you know that when you have a lot of courses and a lot of work that needs to be done, and you know that it's quickly going to. The schedule is coming to an end, and you have to finish the work, but you don't quite have the time, and so November is tough in that way because it's the same thing every year. This is my 5th year. I did the same thing that I have to finish my work, but I don't have the time.
Yeah, basically you are in a situation where the workload is actually increasing all the time, and the light is going away, and the warmth is also going away at the same time. For myself personally, I think it can be a challenging time, but also I sometimes sort of allow the melancholy and the sort of passiveness to come, and then you can just lie on your bed if you're not immersed in work like Jalal, but sometimes I can just lie on my bed and look at the dark sky and write something, and I realize that actually I haven't stopped for a while. I haven't had this cup of tea and just listening to this very melancholy music. So if
I
you
can't
allow
imagine you listening to melancholy music. You're a great fan of electronic music.
Yeah, but there's also dark ambient and other stuff.
Which brings me. Do you think? Now, come on, folks. One question I'd like to throw at you. Do you think the exceptional darkness of the Nordic winter has anything to do with the number of heavy metal rock bands in Finland? Come on, I'm interested to hear this because I think there is a connection here.
Yeah, I think it would be like that. Of course it is. It comes from the deepest feelings of Finns.
Yeah, I think many of the artist and song names also might represent this.
Yeah, Sonata Arctica.
Yeah.
What happened to him and all these guys?
I don't know. Maybe
Darkness, bleeding.
We grew up from
They are ohi.
Yeah. But like,
I think we might talk later about dark metal maybe in the next program, but at this point I would like to remind our listeners that you are listening to Radio Robin Hood, a weekly conversational program coming to you from Kasviskeidas, from the center of Turku, and we are all huddled here together in the warmth and the dark November surrounds us. But we have also another topic for tonight, and that's the coming up presidential elections. A more, how would I say, a safe topic than the weather. So, any thoughts?
Yeah, let's get there first. Yes.
I want to speak about him.
Him, all right.
Okay,
let's give you 1 minute.
Ville Valo to president.
What happened with them?
What happened to him? Actually, I know that there are at least probably more, but 2 hymns. Once I found in the library a record called Hymn, but it had dots between every letter, like H dot, I dot M, and it was a really nice dub band from the United States or something. But I don't know what happened to him. Maybe we should call Ville Valo.
He could come and join us.
I don't have his number, but we will ask him later. And so the elections. Who wants to comment first?
Well, I think it's going to be a foregone conclusion that Sauli Niinistö will be elected for a second term as president of Finland. Full stop. And I don't think there's no real challenger. And I think I think he's done a wonderful tactical thing. I mean, he's going to be a father. That's going to fill the headlines just at the right time before election day. So I think it's a done deal.
Yeah, of course it is, but we can still check out what's the opinions of the candidates before the elections, and that's what we are basically doing this night when we are having the meeting of the Animal Justice Party. We are figuring out what we would love to ask from them, and then just have the opinions of our issues from them before the elections anyway.
I heard Sauli Niinistö say a few weeks ago that he eats meat only like once a week nowadays, and I was positively surprised by that, and it's a fine thing that he said so and does so.
So do you think that Sauli Niinistö has risen above his party affiliation? I mean, he was a prominent national coalition party politician. Do you think he has risen above that, like previous presidents have done?
Yeah, probably, because like he did what is the valitsijamiesyhdistys or what is?
The electoral college.
Yeah, and he's not like affiliated with Petteri Orpo or those like main guys or girls from the National Coalition Party, and you could say that.
For me, I have at least experienced that at least Sauli's media image and what he does seems to be quite down to earth. He makes appearances into some local, say, like a radio program as a caller. There was this nature-oriented radio program. He just called there and asked some question or something like that. So it's just like a general feeling that he's kind of laid back. And also, personally, I think when he had to had to visit President Trump in the States, I think he managed to do that visit kind of cool.
Yeah, but that's still a bigger gig to be like down-to-earth person, and I think that he doesn't have to do any big media things.
So more about Sauli Niinistö from the other side of the sofa.
Well, I'm very surprised that we have two representatives here from the Left Alliance who are saying absolutely nothing whatsoever about Sauli Niinistö. I would have thought that you would have some input, because I know I could talk for hours about this subject. But Ville, what do we do to shake these two guys up?
Well, I might not actually stay in that party for a very long time anymore. I might leave the party behind, actually, to be honest. For several different reasons, but Sauli Niinistö, actually, to be honest, I'm not exactly sure what his task is. I mean, in the sense, sure, the international relations and so, but what kind of person would it require to do a worse job? I mean, I'm not saying he's doing a bad job. No, don't get me wrong.
Somebody with a very active Twitter account, maybe?
Yeah. Sure. But I could imagine that it wouldn't be a huge challenge to do a better job than him.
I think that one thing has to be clarified within the next few weeks, if not months at the very latest, is that does the President of Finland have this number one role in the handling of Finnish foreign policy? Because we've seen once again in the past few weeks the solo activities of a certain ultra-right politician here, which have gone largely sort of unchecked by the political establishment in this country, and I think this is something. I think Sauli Niinistö definitely needs to sort of reassert his position. Hey, I'm the one in cooperation with the government that handles foreign policy. Either that's the way it's going to be in Finland or not. I also like to point out another thing. Although I did not vote for Sauli Niinistö in the last election, and as a Finnish citizen, listeners, something you probably can't stand, I do have the right to vote in this country, also in presidential elections. So what I'd just like to say is this, that even though I didn't vote for him, I do think that the fact that we have one leader of a European Union country who is freely and openly discussing with Vladimir Putin, the leader of a superpower that could blow us up within 5 seconds, I think that is a good thing. And that's so I give him 10 points on that particular score, if not on others.
All right. Any more of Sauli Niinistö? Should we talk about the other representatives?
Isn't that a little old school point of view?
But I am old school.
Yeah.
In some things. Openly and unashamedly so. Otherwise, I think the only...
Are you still afraid of Soviet Union?
The Soviet Union collapsed in 1989, as you know. But its nuclear arsenal didn't go away. Under the current START treaty with the United States of America, both sides can have 1,500 nuclear warheads pointing at each other at any time of day or night. That is the reality of the situation at this moment.
Yeah, and hopefully not in the future that those warheads will be also controlled by artificial intelligence. Possible. But let's not go into there, I think. But anyhow...
I'm one who says I just hope Sauli will continue the dialogue with Putin. Doesn't mean to say I agree with him on any other points, but on that which is so life important, that I'll back him. I really do.
All right.
But the other candidates could kind of get a little bit more space, though. We can assume that he will be the next president, but on the other hand, The more people just talk about him, the less we see the other possibilities.
Yeah. How many of us have? Do we even know all the candidates?
Yeah, we do. We should know Nils Torvalds from the. No, I don't know the English terms. The Swedish. What is
The Swedish People's Party.
Yeah, and then Laura Huhtasaari, the one who don't believe in evolution theory, from the Perussuomalaiset,
The
and
Finns
then
party.
from the Left-Wing Alliance we have Merja Kyllönen, which is actually, I think she could be. Well, I would have to look more into her personality, but I think she's a pretty good candidate.
I agree.
Yeah, there are good. Yes, in so many ways.
Who did I forget now?
I think
Matti Vanhanen from
How about Pekka?
from the Centre Party.
Pekka Haavisto from the Green
Yeah.
Party.
Yeah.
Who actually gave Sauli a run for his money in the last campaign.
Yeah.
I mean, I was all the way with Pekka. I think he's a remarkable peacemaker. He did wonderful work in the Sudan. So I mean, he would actually be my second choice, and also because of his stand on gender politics as well.
Yeah.
Not very old school.
Yeah. all right.
Shall we go here?
I think we have a battle going on.
I see.
All right, we have.
I love global tennis, folks, as you know,
Yeah.
and I don't mean anything bad by it.
All right. We have 3 minutes left, and we're still talking about the elections. And we had a long talk about Sauli, and other candidates were named. A little bit of Pekka. What do you think about Laura Huhtasaari? Does she have like this surprise Trump element?
I think didn't she say that if Russia won, that they could come and take Finland in like 1 hour, or what was it? But yeah, I don't know. It would be interesting if she was the head of the military or like the ylipäätäkään.
Yeah, luckily in Finland the president, or maybe luckily in Finland, president doesn't have that much power.
Yeah.
For example, now we are following the presidential elections in United States. Just yesterday I read that Trump has also nominated a new head for NASA, for example, who hasn't got any scientific background, and also the same thing for NOAA, like the climate research facilities. So basically, that's kind of interesting. If the same situation would be in Finland, and we would have, for example, a president who doesn't believe in evolutionary theory, and then they would nominate
Or a Minister of Justice that has no lawyer's experience, or something like that we've had.
So, is the presidential election, does it have some sort of meaning anymore? Is it just like a negotiator with Putin, and that's it?
This is the point where like the law changed. Was it in 2000?
2000, yeah.
Yeah. Then the presidential authority, or the not only authority but the tasks.
Yeah,
that
the
the
power,
president,
his
the power
powers,
and,
yes.
and the tasks.
Yeah.
He or she has changed. So there is a gap now that is kind of sort of supposed to be filled by the Prime Minister, but somehow a gap that is not kind of handled by anyone, right? A little bit. Or?
All right, 1 minute remaining.
I just think that we're living still in Finland with a hangover from the days of Kekkonen, where Kekkonen was the kind of, or not a supreme ruler, but he had a lot of power invested in him, and now of course this has changed. And I think during Sauli's first term in office, we've seen a little bit the borderline has moved a little bit further towards the president. He's been certainly firmer on matters of defence compared to his predecessor, Tarja Halonen, who was prepared to be sort of, let Parliament speak. So that it's not so precisely defined as we might think, and I think this may be confusing to some people.
All right, I think we have only 10 seconds left of our program tonight, and we had some heated conversations about the cold weather and some
That's a good one.
and also heating up conversations about the heating up presidential election. Join us next time on Radio Robin Hood on Conversation Oasis. I am Ville, and today I had with me Anton, Saana Maria, David, Sakke, with a good feeling. And also Nana and Branko and Jalal, who escaped to some place, and me, Ville.
You didn't
Enjoy it.
let me to talk on weather.
Yes, we will return to the weather next time.
Yeah.
All right, goodbye.
Yes, bye-bye.
Bye bye.